couple of products in our line. The first is a new release of Spectral Layers, which is SpectraLayers Pro 3. And you'll also be seeing a little bit of SoundForge Pro Mac 2.5. We have a free update on that. And what I'm going to do is, we're concentrating today on audio for video, and I'm going to show you a little audio post project, that I created from the ground up using these two applications. But the application that you're looking at on the screen in front of you is neither Spectral Layers or SoundForge. It is our new edit application, the Fast and Focused Video Editor. But the reason why this is open is because I would like you to focus your attention on a video clip that I am about to play. Now, this video clip, this is a stock piece of stock video footage. And this was downloaded, and it has no soundtrack whatsoever. And I created a soundtrack for this clip. It's about a 30-second clip. And I created a soundtrack for this clip from scratch using only Sony Creative Software products, including the sounds themselves, which came from our sound effects loop libraries. So we have Sony Creative Software sound effects, Sony Creative Software, Spectral Layers Pro 3, SoundForge Pro Mac. Now, I'm going to play this clip. Now, I'd like you to use your imagination while you watch this clip. There's no sound, and I would like you to sort of like invent a soundtrack for this in your head. What are you hearing, or what do you think the viewer should be listening to when they see this clip, and sort of shout out what you would like to hear, whether, you know, water or whatever. Just, you know, I want to hear you. I want to hear you talk about what you would like to see happening in this clip. Here we go. What do you hear in your mind's eye, or your mind's ear? There you go. Engine sounds. Pounding water, the sound of water. Great. For sure. There's a lot going on. A lot of natural and man-made sounds. You've got sort of industrial ambience along with a nice natural environment. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the soundtrack that I created for this clip. So I have 3 stereo audio tracks, and I'm just going to unmute them all. And this is my score for this little clip, or my audio for video that I made. And the audio is not happening at the moment. Hold on. Got a connection here. All right. Sorry about that. Let's try this. This is what it sounds like with the soundscape that I created. Little siren sound in there. Big foghorn. And that's the score. So I'm going to show you how I created this from scratch using Sony Creative Software products. Let's move to Spectral Layers Pro 3. This is a Spectrum audio editor. Now, usually when people think about spectral editing, they think noise reduction, repair and restore, you know, archival stuff, you know, fixing things. But Spectral Layers Pro 3 is a really, really cool sound design tool where you can use your creativity and imagination to make really, you know, really cool sounds happen, really cool soundscapes evolve. The audio clip that you're looking at here in the spectral graph is from our very own Hollywood Sony sound effects series, Sony Picture Sound Effects. And so this audio track was picked up straight off the Sony Pictures vaults. Let's listen to it. We don't have to listen to the whole thing, just a part of it. Okay? Now, right away, there's a pretty serious problem with this track. What do you see as a problem that just sticks out? Anybody? The problem is the low end. Yeah. Yeah, there's too much low end. So the first thing I want to do before I get into the creative sound design work is get control over this. Let's get control over the low end. Okay, I'm going to zero in on that low end, and you can see that's happening down here at the bottom of the frequency spectrum. Getting control over it is easy. All I do is I take a frequency range selection tool, and then I can highlight, hold on. I'm going to take the frequency range selection tool and highlight the offending low end band. Now all I really need to do then is hit my space bar like this, and I can hear that low end sound in isolation. Now you could extract this low end sound and create your own file with it to use as an effect for like another piece, like a high tension drama scene or a horror movie or something. But what we really want to do here is we want to get control over that low end. And it's really simple. I'm going to cut it. Now, when I cut that low end out, it's gone from the file. And the file then sounds like this. So you get all of the ambience is there, and, but that low end is completely gone. But we just want to get control over it, not necessarily delete it. So I'm going to create a new layer, and then I'm going to call that layer LF for low frequency. Now, with this, the active layer, then I perform Command V. Excuse me for a moment here. Whoa. I perform Command V, and this bass sound then appears on its own layer. Now, when I play it, I'm going to turn the gain fader on the low frequency all the way down, and I'm going to start this file over again. And this time now, I'm just going to fade up the low end like this. You can see it getting brighter down at the bottom of the screen. And now, you can see at about 12 dB below where it was, it's a lot more manageable. Whereas here, this was the original sound. At about minus 12, it starts to sound a lot more, better. Okay, now with that under control, that's kind of a repair task. Now with that under control, the next step is let's do some sound design work. I'd like to focus your attention on this Foghorn sound. Now you can see the Foghorn sound is made up of like stripes. And what those stripes represent is the overtone series of the sound. We have the fundamental frequency on the very bottom, and then the zebra stripes going sort of up the ladder, those are the overtones. And there's a tool in SpectraLayers Pro 3 that can grab this sound along with all of its associated overtones all at once. And I'll show you how that's done. We'll take the harmonic selection tool, and I'm just going to tweak my tool parameters up here a little bit. This describes how the harmonics extraction tool actually behaves when I apply it in the spectral graph. Now, when I move this tool, when I balance this tool over the second harmonic, it seeks downward to the fundamental and upward through up to 60 harmonics above it. If I hit my tab key, I can hear my selection, like so, and I can click and drag over the Foghorn sound and select the whole thing and use the space bar to audition my selection. Okay, now I've got it. The next step then is to get that Foghorn sound on its own layer. Command C copies the sound. Layer new makes a new layer. The layer's here. I can do Command V to paste that in. I'll color code the new layer to a color that I like more. Like for example, this purple is nice. And then I will name this Foghorn. Now, when I solo the Foghorn layer, I can then listen to it in isolation. It's on its own layer. Really nice extraction. That worked out really well. Now, what I would like to do is kind of beef up that sound and make it thick and, make it nice and fat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my time range selection tool, and I'm going to select the Foghorn along with a whole bunch of space after it, because I'm going to fill this space with reverb. And so with it selected, I'm going to leave SpectraLayers Pro 3 and go into SoundForge Pro Mac 2. And this is a feature we call seamless interoperability. Process, edit in SoundForge Pro. Now, this Foghorn sound will open in SoundForge Pro Mac in the background. And there we have it. My next step will be then to thicken it up and fatten it up. And what I would like to do is put a whole bunch of reverb on there. So I'll just select the entire sound, go to Process, Effects, Reverb, AU Matrix Reverb, and I'll select the big reverb sound, the cathedral setting. I'll make that ratio, the mix ratio, about 80% wet. Now we can audition the Foghorn sound with the reverb on it. Okay, can you hear that? Can you hear the reverb? It's a nice, big reverb sound. And it would be nice to have a little more volume here. So, oh, I lost it. So we'll go back to Reverb, AU Matrix Reverb, 81%, preview. Hold on, I got to bring it back. Very quickly bring it back. And it sounds great. So we will process that. Now, in the last step here, I will normalize it so that I can take advantage of all available headroom. And then finally, I save the file and quit SoundForge Pro. And Spectral Layers comes back then and it asks me, do I want to import the Foghorn sound that I just worked with in SoundForge? And I click yes. Now watch. See the Foghorn? Now watch it grow with the reverb sound. I hit yes, and the Foghorn sound now comes back normalized and with a lot of reverb, and it's a lot louder. Okay. So if I unmute my original source sound, you can see that the new Foghorn sound is laying right on top of the original. And again, brightness is a function of amplitude in SpectraLayers Pro. So if I turn it down and up, you can see I can blend it like this. And you can see above the spectrum, there's also a waveform display where I can see the amplitude relationship there. So let's review what we have so far. We have this new sound. Great. It's a lot louder and beefier than it was before, and the reverb makes a big difference. Here's the original sound. Right? Sounds like the little train engine that could. And then here is the new beefed up sound, which sounds a lot more intense. And it goes really good with the boat video too, because you know the camera was pretty close, and this kind of accentuates that proximity that you have in the visual space. But now, what if I wanted to add another boat into this scene? In other words, another Foghorn sound. Well, it's really easy. All I have to do is start with the Foghorn sound that I already made, and I will duplicate that, and we're going to call this Foghorn 2. Okay, so now I have a duplicate, and we'll give this a unique color. And color coding in Spectral Layers is really great because it helps you stay organized. So now that we have this Foghorn duplicated, the next step is simply to grab the Move in Time tool, and I can drag my new creation, my new Foghorn sound, anywhere I want on the timeline. And this stays fluid. I can continuously go back to the layer panel, make that the active layer, and drag that thing back and forth until I'm entirely sure that that's where I want it to be. So now we have the original Foghorn and the new one. Okay, but the new one sounds just like the old one. We have to find a way to change it up a little bit. We want to make it sound farther away, so naturally we want to bring down the volume, but we also want to make it, give it kind of a, what's the word for it? Is it a Doppler effect, when a sound changes pitch as it gets farther away from you? So let's try that. I have a scaling tool here, and I can scale both time and frequency, so I can make it sound lower and longer with one tool. So balancing my tool over the Foghorn, all I have to do is pull down and move over like this, and I have a lower pitch sound. Right? If I want to make it sound like the spaceship from Close Encounters of the Third Kind, I can drag it down even more. So we have the ability to move these things in space and make really, really fine changes. So I'm going to back this up a little bit, and then I'll use the scale frequency tool to kind of make it, raise it up again to like kind of a more realistic level. And now again, for the basis of comparison, we have the first one, and we have the second one. If I bring down the volume on that one a little bit, then it'll fit right in. There, that sounds really nice. Now you compare that to the huge foghorn coming up. Good. So we have the first one, the second one, and then the big foghorn sound. Okay. Now, I would like to pause for a minute, and I would like to mute all of these tracks, and I'm going to bring up an entirely different project. Now, at this time, I would like to sort of like canvas you guys a little bit and find out how many of you have heard about SpectraLayers Pro in the past, before today? A few people. And how many of you have seen our poster child Siren demo, in which I remove a siren from a BBC broadcast? Okay, we're going to go back there. We're going to go back to that Siren demo. So we're going to finish our boat demo in a minute. But first, I want to go back to last year. Now, last year I had this demo, and I had a BBC news broadcast that sounds like this. Whoops! Hold on, just a moment. Got to back out of here and toggle back to the beginning.
People still coming to terms with the night of rioting which caused such devastation on their high street, and much of that street is in fact now a crime scene, about half a mile of it, as police officers continue their investigation.
Okay, now in this demo I extracted the siren. The siren sounds like this when it's extracted, and I can move my screen contrast controls to see the harmonic overtone series. Okay, good stuff. Now, we're going to use a process called phase cancellation to take the siren out of the mix. It's like -1 + 1 = 0, okay? The 1 is here on the BBC source file, and the -1 is here on the siren layer. And we have a little switch here, and this switch right here is a phase switch that goes from positive to negative. Now listen to what happens when I invert the phase on the siren. Check it out. This is the result.
People still coming to terms with the night of rioting which caused such devastation on their high street, and much of that street is in fact now a crime scene, about half a mile of it, as police officers continue their investigation.
Okay, I was able to remove that siren from the mix. Check out this A-B comparison.
People still coming to terms with the night of rioting which caused such devastation on their high street, and much of that street is in fact now a crime scene, about half a mile of it.
Okay, so I am left with this siren sound, and all of a sudden the producer of the video comes in and says, I need a siren in the freighter video, and this is the only siren I have. And so what can I do to fix it? It doesn't sound very good. It's all chirpy. It's got a lot of digital artifacts. It was never really meant to be used as a freestanding effect. Well, let's zoom out, and you can see the siren occupies this level of space here. And I'm going to take the time range selection tool. I'm going to select the siren sound, put it back into positive phase, drag my time range selection tool over it, go back to SoundForge Pro, and I'm going to put the same reverb on this sound that I used for the first foghorn extraction. Here we have the siren. And I'm going to select it all and go to the reverb that we used last time. And this time I'm going to really crank it up, and we're going to go to a higher percentage. We'll go to about 95, 96%. It's fine. Preview it. Huge reverb. Okay, let's process that. Now I'm going to fade up. Whoops, sorry. That's not what we want to do. I'm going to fade up that siren sound from the beginning, and we'll just kind of put a slow fade in on there. We'll fade it in nice and slow. then I'm going to normalize it again to take advantage of the headroom. So we normalize, process it. Now we're good. We'll save that sound. Quit SoundForge Pro. Now, here's the old Siren. Here's the new one. But all of that chirpy junk, all of those artifacts, you can see that stuff floating around up here in the upper harmonics in the spectrum. What if we just take the frequency range selection tool, hover it above the first fundamental overtone, select that stuff, and just get rid of it. Now, that Siren has a lot of artifacts, and it wasn't the most high quality sound, but this is actually about as good as we're going to get a product out of this. And it sounds like this. Kind of fades in nice. Okay. It may not be perfect, but it's a lot better than it was. And the final result here, the acid test, will be to see how it fits into the mix, into the context of all of the other sounds going on. So let's unmute our source layer. You can see the Siren layer kind of floating in there. Now I'm just going to, make this the active layer, take my move time tool, and I'm just going to sort of slide the Siren sound over so that it begins right where the big Foghorn sound leaves off. Let's give that a listen and find out if it's acceptable to us. I'm going to bring down the volume a little bit more, and it's easy to see the lights here, the relationships. You can almost see where you need it to be to, to make a good relationship in amplitude between these two sounds. Here we go. Big Foghorn sound. And the Siren comes in. Not too bad. Okay. And that's a perfectly, to me, it's a perfectly acceptable end result, especially when you consider what we started with, which was a pretty defective sound. So now, that's pretty much a wrap on this, except for one other thing I want to show you when we go back to the video. But just to review, let's darken everything out. We'll black everything out, and I'll sort of start from the beginning and summarize for you what I did. Okay, we started with the bass layer from the Sony Picture Sound Effects series, and then I'm going to drag this low frequency file down over the harbor sound. It doesn't affect the sound, it just affects it's indicative of the order that we proceeded in. So then when I unmute the low frequency, remember this, the bass, this is what we messed with first to get rid of that huge bass sound. Then I beefed up this Foghorn sound, which made it sound really a super lot better. Then I added a new boat in the water, I dropped a new Foghorn right there, and finally, last but not least, I took the Siren sound from the BBC broadcast and I dropped it in there, and the result is a really colorful, kind of beautiful thing to look at. You can go into 3D view and look at the amplitude relationships between these sounds, and that's really pretty to look at. But this is it. I created this with all Sony Creative Software tools from zero, from a piece of downloaded stock video footage with no associated audio track. Finally, the last thing I did was I added a couple of boat motor sounds coming in from right and left, and that's why you get these two additional stereo tracks here. And these came from the Detroit Chop Shop sound effects series. And that's about it for my demo. One more time, we'll watch a little bit of this go by. This was my finished product. The Siren comes in a little bit earlier on this one. The bass is under control compared to what we started out with. And, it's not bad. It works. All done right before your very eyes in about 20 minutes. So that's a wrap. And again, my name is Mike Scheibinger. I'm the audio software product manager for Sony Creative Software. Visit www.sonycreativesoftware.com. Today I showed you SpectraLayers Pro 3, released in January. SoundForge Pro Mac 2.5. SoundForge Pro Mac is $299. SpectraLayers Pro is $399. And you can buy both bundled together in a product we call Audio Master Suite for $499. And so for $4.99, you get the best of both worlds in waveform and spectral editing, and it's a phenomenal package that will take you creatively to brand new horizons. And let me tell you, spectral editing is totally the future. There's going to be a time when waveform editing is pretty much a thing of the past. So one more time, thank you very much for watching this. Come on over to our booth and have a visit. And right now I got to scamper off because the next presenter needs to come on up. So thank you very much. Give yourselves a hand, too.